Now we will start our technical session for the second day. Let me introduce the first chairperson of this technical session. I'm very happy to welcome Professor Yash Shandini to our conference. Professor Shandini has a teaching experience of 8 years. She has been a professor in English previously at GSS Vepari College, Chennai. Currently, she is serving in Shri S.S. Shashwan Jain College in T. Nagar on behalf of the Department of English, almost at the College of Arts and Science. I welcome Professor Shandini to take over the stage. Ma'am, you can start your session.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Outside, I thank Mohammed Sattak College and Cape Comorin Trust and Publisher for having me as chairperson for this session. And best wishes to all the presenters. Can we start the session? Can we just go ahead with the session, sir?
Yes, ma'am, we can go ahead with the session. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so our first presenter will be Dr. Monica, Spanish guest lecturer, Daulat Ram College, University of Delhi, on role of Hindi and English in the teaching learning of Spanish L3.
Hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I would like to share my screen. Please let me know if you are able to see it.
Sure.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me. I am Dr. Monica. So, as ma'am said, I'm currently working as guest lecturer.
Ma'am Shandini,
Yes, ma'am.
hold on, please, Monica. Ma'am, every presenter has to present for just 10 minutes, ma'am, because we have a less passage of time. So it has been cut short, 10 minutes for every presenter, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Dr. Monica, your time starts now. It's 11:18. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, sure, ma'am. So the title of my research paper is Role of First Language and Second Language in the Teaching and Learning of Third Language. Uh, Language is an important part of society and human lives, which is required for communication. Language represents our identity. It consists of a system which helps to express emotions, give information, establish relationship, construct identity, and so on. In a context where people use more than one language, emerge important phenomena such as bilingualism and multilingualism. Saraf, in his article, mentions that India is a big socio-linguistic country and its multilingual character is its nervous system. Many researchers have tried to define the term multilingualism. The term multilingualism has its origin in Latin, in which multi means many and lingua means language. In this way, multilingualism is referred to the ability of human beings to express themselves in various languages. According to MacArthur, multilingualism can be referred to the use of three or more languages where multilinguals can use different languages in various situations and for various purposes, such as social, cultural, and economic. Often, terms bilingualism and multilingualism are used interchangeably. Lyons and defines multilingualism as a coexistence of various languages like official or non-official, native or foreign, national or international within a society. The society where people are multilinguals is known as a multilingual society. India is one of the biggest example of this phenomena where coexist various languages and most of the population of this country is bilingual or multilingual. Beldridge says in India, besides the language of communication, one language is spoken at home, one language in the street, and other is of the state. As we all know that Constitution of India has not given status of national language to any Indian language, keeping in mind the linguistic diversity of India. However, Indian Constitution has recognized 22 scheduled languages, and these languages has various dialects. Hindi and English are the languages that should be used as languages of union. However, different states can use their own languages along with English to carry out the communication with central government. This socio-linguistic background of India provides provides us a general idea that students learning foreign language, here Spanish, come from a bilingual or multilingual background. As a result, students learn Spanish not as their second language but as third or fourth language. Munera highlights that process of learning a foreign language is different from that of first language. Various studies show that students transfer the linguistic knowledge from previously acquired languages to the target language, which in turn help them to compensate the insufficient competence in target language. This process is known as language transfer or cross-linguistic influence. Carroll classifies this cross-linguistic influence into categories: positive transfer and negative transfer. When previously acquired languages facilitates the learning of foreign language, it results in positive transfer. In other words, when the relevant unit or structure of both languages is the same, which results in correct language production, is called positive transfer. On the other hand, when learners transfer items and structures that are not same in both languages, which results in error, is known as negative transfer. According to the notion of contrastive analysis, the more similarities between the two languages, higher the positive transfer, and more structural differences between the two languages, the more negative transfer can be predicted. Hence, based on the contrastive linguistic approach, through our paper, we would like to highlight the importance and role of language 1 and language 2 in the teaching learning of language 3. Firstly, I would quickly like to define language 1, language 2, and language 3. Language 1 refers to the mother tongue or native language or first language of students. It's the language acquired by the learner since when he was born. On the other hand, language 2 and language 3 are the languages acquired by the students after the mother tongue. As a subject of our study are students whose mother tongue is Hindi, we will use language 1 for Hindi. Most of the Spanish language institutions use English as medium of instruction in the teaching of Spanish language, except Instituto Cervantes, which is actually language 2 of learners. So language 2 here will be used for English, and language 3 will be used for target language, that is here Spanish. Various researchers, to name Zhao, Chen, etc., have highlighted similarities that exist between English and Spanish, and at the same time, Hindi and Spanish also share many similarities due to the proximity of Latin with Sanskrit and their role as parent languages of Spanish and Hindi. Similarities between Hindi and Spanish and English can help similarities between Hindi and Spanish and English can help teachers as well as students to use Hindi and English as important tools in the teaching and learning of Spanish. Moreover, it's very important to highlight that moreover so it's very important that teachers highlight the differences that exist between English and Spanish or English and Hindi in order to avoid negative transfer from English to Spanish or from Hindi to Spanish. So here I would like to recommend some suggestions which can be used by teachers and students in the teaching and learning of Spanish using Hindi or English. So as we know, like English and Hindi there is a lot of similarity between the script, because there is Roman script for English and Spanish. So from since the first day, English helps the students of Spanish to understand or basically to guess many words from Spanish to English. So, for example, the alphabets. Students don't find it difficult because they already know the English alphabet. So, for them, it's very easy to quickly learn and grasp the knowledge of alphabets. And here are the examples of some words. So from which like students start guessing the meanings. So for example, like action, so they will start guessing like it's action, celebration, celebration, declaration, declaration, function, function, information, information, etc. So script helps a lot to them. So not only script but also some grammatical similarities also or are also the advantage for Indian students, because as they hope the screen is visible to all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. So then another example where we can take advantage of English, the similarity between English and Spanish is like past tense, because in Spanish there are three tenses, which is like preterito perfecto, then preterito indefinido, and preterito imperfecto. So students find it very hard to differentiate between those three tenses. But whenever we give them a little similarity to their own languages, to the languages that they already know here, like Hindi and English, so it really helps them to differentiate between these three tenses. So in Spanish, I forgot to write here, like in Spanish, like you say, yo comí. So students find it very difficult, like what is the difference between yo comí and yo comía and yo he comido. So it's like this. So in preterito perfecto, in definido, it's like I ate, which is in Hindi like मैंने खाया. So in preterito perfecto, it's I have eaten. So मैंने खा लिया. And preterito imperfecto, which is like I was eating, so मैं खा रहा था. So actually this helps them to differentiate like what is the difference between these three tenses and how and when they have to use imperfecto or indefinido or imperfecto. Then another example is for him, like where we can take advantage of Hindi and English, because sometimes uh, uh, like because we have this advantage of knowing two languages or other languages. So here like in English, like we have in Spanish tú and usted, vosotros and ustedes. So tú is like if we want to translate in English, or if we want to find the equivalent of tú and usted. So in English it's you, and usted is you formal, but in English for both we are going to use you. But we are not going to but students in Spanish find difficult when to use tú and usted, because sometimes they forget informal and formal, because in English it's like same term, you, one word. But when we compare it to Hindi, like we have tu and tu tum, or we have aap, then they find it so easy to understand the difference between tu and usted, because tu is like you, informal is like tum, and tum or tu, and usted is like aap. So it's very easy for them to learn, quickly memorize. And then vosotros and usted is same, no? So it's like vosotros is tum sab and usted is aap sab. So they find it so easy to understand when they compare it to their own mother tongue. Then related to the gender, like if sometimes so uh, one word, like in English we have the article the. So so uh, so for example, if we want to write house, so we are going to write the house or the houses, the pen, the pens. But in Spanish, each noun has to be differentiated according to the gender and number. So the house in Spanish is feminine noun. So according to the feminine characteristic of the noun, we have to use other article, that is la. So like for this single word the, we have four different articles according to the gender and singular plural of the noun. So I think I'm running out of time. I'll just quickly summarize. And then there is another example of adjectivos possessivos, which is like possessive adjectives in English. So in English, like if I want to say my house, so we have only just one word, no, my house. So, but as I just said, Spanish has gender and number. So same like Hindi. So for this my word, you are going to find four words in Hindi, no, like meri, मेरा घर मेरे मेरे मम्मी पापा. So like मेरा, मेरी, मेरे. So singular, plural, and masculine, feminine. This gender helps the students who has their mother tongue Hindi. So it helps them to understand better Spanish language. And just I would like to say at the end, like because sometimes it's not necessary that Spanish and Hindi and English are own, like we just find the similarities between them. It because they are different languages, they are the languages of different countries, so obviously there are differences also. So that differences can also cause interferences in the, they can also cause problems which is known as negative transfer. So for example, as I just said, like students start guessing each and every word from English to Spanish, from Spanish to English. So they start guessing like this. So embarazada, they will start guessing it like embarrassed, but it's not embarrassed, it's pregnant. So there it's called like false cognates. So like here it's the language is causing negative transfer. So like PA, so students start guessing it like pie, but it's not pie, it's foot. So their negative transfer can also happen. So that is why it's like the teacher's responsibility. So here the teacher need to highlight the similarities and differences, but undoubtedly we can take the advantage of the languages that students already know. So here I would just like to conclude that through this paper, I've just tried to show like how multilingual background can be an advantage for Indian students, where their mother tongue or other languages previously acquired, here like Hindi and English, can serve important tools for them in the teaching and learning of Spanish. So multilinguals have better mental flexibility, and they are more strategic and capable of adapting with better cognitive skills. So finally, in the words of Senos, I would like to just say, as the more languages we know, the easier it will be acquire a new language. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. Um, a very interesting presentation. I just have one doubt.
Yeah,
How do
sure.
you think it helps in pronunciation? Because when we are teaching English to our, Tamil or Hindi, second language, English as second language, they have their mother tongue influence. So we find it difficult to, get them to acquire the right English pronunciation. Now that when you're using a mother tongue plus a second language to teach a third language, how do you think it helps or it deters acquiring the right pronunciation?
So, ma'am, like I just said, like because a negative transfer is something that can also occur, as you mentioned, right? So, from especially it happens when we are teaching them from English to Spanish. But if there are similarities, obviously we can take advantages, but we can highlight them. For example, I'll give you an example. Like in the case of especially vowels, no, because in English, as we know, like U sound, for example, it's like somewhere it's under, somewhere it's university, somewhere like it differs. So students start using the same habit in Spanish language also. So there the role of Hindi language comes, because in Hindi language I just teach them like the sound, like so U is going, because in Spanish language the sound of vowels doesn't change, it remains same everywhere. So there I just teach them like you use Hindi here, like in Hindi we say for you it's like oo, so you just have to use oo. So you then we have a, then just use a or e. So like these clear pronunciation that we have in Hindi, so there I just take advantage of Hindi. So that's why it's like a mixture of both the languages that we can take advantage for teaching Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And just to get your opinion, like we said, it's running short of time. You think this it will be helpful only with the language like Spanish or any other language this can be used?
I think, ma'am, it can be useful for any other language,
Yeah.
because whenever a student learn any language, it is our habit, or like we can't help ourselves to compare the new language with the languages that we already know, because we try to always find the similarities with our own culture, with our own language. So it is something we can't help. So it's better that we find similarities, and there are already very much studies, for example, similarities between French and English, or Chinese and Spanish. So there has been studies. That's why like I think it's very useful, and it can work for any language, not only for Spanish.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Just, ma'am, one more thing I would like to highlight. For example, there was also a study like where a researcher tried to show the usage of Marathi for teaching Spanish. So like not only for foreign language we can change, like we can use any other Indian language. For example, for the teaching of Korean, we can also use Tamil, because there are some similarities.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody has any questions for Dr. Monica? Can you move on to the next speaker?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Can we have Ms. Priscilla and Dr. V. Lissy?
Ma'am,
Yes,
good
ma'am.
morning.
Yeah,
Ma'am, only I'm going to present it, ma'am.
yeah, fine.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I share the screen, ma'am?
Sure, ma'am. Ms. Priscilla will be presenting on revisiting the Chronicles of
Chronicles of
Narnia.
Narnia.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Ma'am, is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, good morning, ma'am. Good morning to everyone. So, my topic, my area of research is Revisiting the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. So, let me first introduce why I have chosen this topic, because if, it comes under children's literature. Children's literature is the one of the literature where we have it from the classical times. So, the children's literature is early children's literature consists of spoken stories and songs and poems used to educate, instruct, and entertain children. It was in 18th century with the development concept of childhood that then it has been separated the genre like children's literature to begin to emerge on its own. So, taking C.S. Lewis' work, The Chronicles of Narnia, I'm going to I'm doing a research on this. So, I'm just going to say how it is different from the classical children's literature. So the influence of Bible on English literature has been both thematic and stylistic, and that is has been provided in English men's and the latest scriptical themes, and has also modeled their literacy style. Various authors like John Bunyan, Oscar Wilde imitated the simple and rhythmical and repetitive style of the Bible. Further ideas and sentiments, even the phrases, have been frequently drawn upon from the Bible for use in their writing, both religious and secular nature. Ruskin particularly was found of packing his writing to trim with the biblical quotation, which came to him with amazing facility. Many phrases from Bible has been used in the English literature. One among them is C.S. Lewis, who has used this method of using the biblical theme into the children's literature. Whereas if you see the another authors, they will not be using the uh, biblical theme into the children's literature. Rather, it is like for the only for the adult person. But C.S. Lewis has used this effort to teach the children's, and he has used the children's literature as a tool to teach them from the younger age. So, C.S. Lewis was a prolific Irish writer, the author of science fiction and children's literature. He was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, on November 29th and 1898. So, before he was considered to be a scientific writer. So, later on, after the 20th century, he has become the writer of children's literature. After the 20th century, he just encounters the things what is happening inside the society. So what has happened at that time, they started to lose their identities, and the people were mentally disturbed after the Second World War. So, by observing this, Lewis has given this Chronicles of Narnia, including the religious moral teaching into it. And also, by the theory part, he has given the reader's response theory, which was emerged in the year 1930. It is primarily focused on reading. It is not based on the author, but it is text. How the, how the reader is being uh, interpreting the text. So the theoretical assumption, like literature is as a per performative art. When the book is getting completed, means once the reader is giving the interpretation towards the text. That is how the writer's work is getting completed. That is what he has given the hint for the readers. C.S. Lewis has been giving the hint for the readers to think beyond the text, so the gaps between the text, and that is why he has used this method of writing uh, story within a story, and how it is linked, how the Bible has been linked with the Chronicles of Narnia. The image of Christ, the image of Christ is first related to the image of Aslan, the creator of Narnia. And here in the Bible, we can vividly see that Christ has been in the Genesis chapter. So he has created the world. Secondly, yes, the world creator, and by using the Aslan will be using his breathing to create the Narnia, the same way the Bible it has been given. And next, the Aslan's sacrifice, the first sacrifice, where there is a disobedience of one of the character in the Chronicles of Narnia. So here the Aslan goes and self-sacrifice instead of Edmund. So the same things is given in the biblical character also. And the Aslan's Gethsemane, he will be like uh, crying, and he will be like fearing of the crucifixion. The same thing is being portrayed over here also. And the victory, the death stone, like the resurrection of the Aslan, it's directly connects to in the Bible biblical character. And the Son of God, as he is the mastering, he is the mastering of the world. The same thing here, the biblical reference, I could say, here he is the mastering of the other things. So these are the findings I have find out by reading this Chronicles of Narnia, and the symbols and identification, the word choice of the author. He has just given biblical context in this children's literature. So why a sudden shift from science fiction to children's literature? If we think the society, it's I'm keep on researching on it, the gap between what will be the gap. So I mean in future research I'll be doing that. So the gap, what why this gap has been made, and how the author has filled this gap. So the society, after this Second World War, everything has been vanished away. So likewise, T.S. Eliot, he has given the wasteland. After influence of T.S. Eliot, the C.S. Lewis has given this Chronicles of Narnia to the younger children, but he has used the tool for using this story, but it is only for the adult, adult readers. So this is my presentation, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Priscilla.
Thank you, ma'am.
If I can just ask, this is just your opinion. I would just want to know what you have to say on this.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
2022, what do you think is the relevance?
In 2022, yes, we have a hope for this right now, ma'am. After the pandemic, after the lockdown, so still we have some hope. So same thing here also, like when there is a war, in the beginning of the story, we could see the war is happening, and the Chronicles of Narnia. So the students and siblings were being like they have been aparted, and also for safer side only they'll be going to his uncle's house, where they will be shuttering their houses, and where they kept themselves safeguard. The same thing we can directly relevant to our situation, current situation also, where we can shuttering our doors, and where we can safeguard ourselves, and we got mentally disturbed. So after this lockdown, automatically people's psychology is going for some hope, so they wanted to some relief. The same way I could connect the place of Narnia would be the hope for the person, and they wanted to escape. Actually the escapism can be applied over here, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on to the next presenter, I call Ms. Divya, a research scholar. She will be presenting on re-inspecting the challenges of Indians in Africa, literature and the identity.
Yes. Hello, ma'am. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a moment. I'll just share the presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so today my topic is re-inspecting the challenges of Indians in Africa, literature and the identity. So, my article talks about the changing social formation of South Africa from the standardization of apartheid in the late 1940s to the present, and its representation in the literature and identity, reflecting the relocation of literary history of the new South Africa as a nation undergoing transformations, specifically in the labor situation, land struggles, and the politics of the Rainbow Nation. By analyzing historical and literary elements, it is possible to trace the emergence of a carping identity and literature which was shaped by the experiences of the South African Indian diaspora community. This paper falls into two broad sections. The first one deals with the history and the context of South African Indian diasporic writings, and the second section deals with diaspora identity. So, when you examine a space as large as the Indian Ocean, whose history is full of movement and circulation, it provides us with different perspectives and dimensions of migration studies. It also provides an understanding as to how settlements were established. It illustrates the daily conduct of trade, explores the relationships between diverse people, and portrays the conflicting emotions felt by a particular migrant community. Literature, therefore, offers a further insight into these migration, especially Indian African diaspora, about which there is a lack of official documentation. That's what I feel. For thousands of years, Indians have been moving within the space of the Indian Ocean, and literature has always held up a mirror to the society, and this has been no truer than in South African drama. Drama, in particular, has been a booming genre, being part of the warp and weft of the liberation struggle during the apartheid years. So, now when we talk about history, Indian African fiction, that has helped develop a new framework of racial contact and diasporic correspondence based on the movement of Indians to South Africa in the 19th and 20th centuries. So, through an analysis of fiction from 1917 onwards, we can trace the particularity of the Indian presence in South Africa and also construct a critical lens with which to view the intersection of diaspora literature. Indian fiction actually reveals many of the concerns of the mainstream South African literary discourse, which has been articulated by the writers such as J.M. Coetzee, Nadine Gordimer, Alex Laguma, and Zakes MDA, among others. These include certain dynamics of South African society, such as tensions between the generations, class divisions, and aspirations, political alliances, clashing accounts of traditions, as well as the themes of oppression under apartheid, racial harmony, and anxieties about the new nation. Transnational identities, general conflicts, and in turn, to return to the roots are very dominant concerns here, as South African Indian fiction is closely shaped and conditioned by the post-colonial literature. It is an exciting new field within that body of writing, yet it's different from the post colonial norm, which enables us to look at two important subfields in post colonial studies. One is South African literature, and another is Indo South African diasporic literature, which we can see through from an alternative metaphorical lens. South African Indians have been narrating their stories since the time they were transported from India as indentured labor in the middle of the 19th century. Yet, their voices are only being heard now. Despite the proliferation of texts studying South African literature in more inclusive ways, the works of South African Indian writers remain neglected. For example, Christopher Haywood's recently published Survey of South African Fiction entitled A History of South African Literature in 2004 claims that South Africa has five distinct literary groups: Khoisanogni, Sotho, Afrikaans, English, and Indian. Yet Indian writing is not analyzed in much detail here. Indian fiction thus reflects on the specifically South African problems of diasporic identity, such as establishing links with the black population, white, preserving Indianness, locating oneself within a binary racial formulation, and coming to terms with a legacy of migration based on indenture and slavery as well as trade. Our pantheon of dramatists, novelists, writers, and many internationally acclaimed literary figures such as Roni Govender, Ashwin Desai, Ashwin Singh, Muthul Naidu, Cassie Govender, Imran Kuwadia, Achmat Dangor, Farida Karodia, Beverly Naidu, Shamin Sarif, Ishtiaq Shukri, and Kribin Pillay have relentlessly exposed South African society to itself and to the world. When we talk about Indo-South African plays, these plays were written during Free South Africa by the playwrights like Rajesh Gopi, Ismail Mohammed, and Ashwin Singh, who are presenting the changing scenario of the nation and with that transformation of socio-political situation. These plays mirror the problems the community is facing during the transition period. With races integrating with each other and the risk of black power in South Africa's new reality, the situation of the Indians have become perilous. Moreover, the rainbow reality is witnessing the process of creating synthesis among races. Rajesh Gopi's plays travels from 1870 to the present time, witnessing the effect of changing scenario on the community. Whereas Ismail Mohammed narrates situation of women in South African Indian community in two different perspectives. Some of the noteworthy plays are Rajesh Gopi's Out of Bounds, Ashwin Singh's Spice and Stuff, and Ismail Mohammed's Cheaper Than Roses. Into the Grey by Ashwin Singh discusses various issues of the multiracial existence at the time of nation's freedom. Problems arising out of various races living together are discussed threadbare. Indians, black, white, and colored people who have never lived together so far find it difficult to adjust with the new reality, and hence each race tries to dominate over the other. One unmistakably feels that no one talks and discusses about the nation. When we talk about identity, then Indian racial cultural identity, which one might call as Indianness, is therefore slippery. In South Africa, Indianness is altered beyond purity, complicated by the desire to find a political voice only enabled through identification with a larger non Indian community. Consequently, what it means to be South African is also problematized. If Indians can absorb themselves into a black, colored, or white identity, the lines drawn across communities on the basis of race, religion, and culture become increasingly blurred. However, Indian fiction is not just absorbed with asserting Africanization through racial affiliation, it also actively seeks to Indianize South Africa by examining the systematic deletion of Indians in public discourse, inserting Indian cultural practices into national life, and inculcates literary conversation with Indian linguistic and cultural codes. Many writers, for example, refuse to italicize certain Indian words, indicating the naturalization of Indian languages in the national psyche. The distinction between indentured Indian and passenger Indian also has important repercussion on so-called collective consciousness of the South African Indian community. South African Indian identities are always configured by multiple determinants such as indenture, migration for commercial purposes, language, religion, gender, and class. So I conclude by saying that South African Indian fiction exposes the thick emotional and political bonds that Indians share with the wider community in order to argue for national belonging. The African writers have persisted with either success or agony. The specific objectives are to establish some of the works published by the African writers, determine the contribution of the works published by the African writers to in terms of political, economic, and cultural illumination. It also examines the challenges encountered in the publishing process of the African writers' works. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, just one question.
Yes, ma'am.
In what way do you think South Indian Indianness is similar or unique to Indians across any other, they are world over.
Yes,
So, the
definitely.
search for identity, is there a similarity with the rest of the world, Indians in other countries, or what are the differences? What is your opinion?
Because see, we when we talk about South Africa, we come across this word called apartheid, right? So the apartheid was ended by Nelson Mandela, right? And there was a peace treaty which happened. But then, even till now, you will find that the works of writers like Ashwin Singh and Roni Govinder, you will find that there is still that you know peace is still not there. I mean, there is still a distinction, there is still a problem which come across every time when we talk about South African Indians. So the acceptance, or for example, just 2 years back we came across um, this problem where the Black Lives Matters. Okay,
That's
so
right.
there is this problem has always is there in the psyche, right? It has not evaporated. So if you talk about post apartheid, there is a question that is it a post apartheid.
Okay. So you feel it is aggravated for the Indians, or they are, their experience is similar to the blacks. Uh,
I would say that their experience is similar to the blacks. It's just that there is still uh, the blacks feel that they have come over our community, our culture, our country, but it is not like that. I mean, they both are feeling the similar issues, but somewhere down the line, they don't realize that they are in the same page.
okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your inputs.
Thank you.
We move on to the last presenter for this session, Ms. Josephine, research scholar on search for identity and oppression of women and analysis of the poem. This is a photograph of me by Margaret Atwood.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank
I'm presenting my screen now.
you. Ms. Divya, you have to stop presenting.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So, good morning, everyone. The title of my paper is Search for Identity and Oppression of Women, an analysis of the poem This is a Photograph of Me by Margaret Atwood. So, coming to know about the author, Margaret Atwood is a Canadian writer, and she is mainly known for her prose fictions and her feminist perspective. And mostly her works reflect the pain and the longingness of a woman to experience the freedom of mind. And the main themes that revolve around her works are gender, identity, religion, and the myths that surround the women. And she is a prolific writer and has been awarded Canada's prestigious Government General Award. So, coming to this poem, this is a photograph of me. It is mainly about the feminist perspectives. Feminism is generally the granting of equal social, political, and economic rights for the women to enjoy equally as men. So, coming under feminism, I have three main keywords to discuss here: gender equality, self identity, and female oppression. So gender equality is the giving of equal access of resources and opportunity to women to enjoy all the decision making authorities, economic participation as enjoyed by men. So often self identity and gender equality are often interlinked. When gender equality is offered to a woman, naturally self identity for women naturally creates. So women lack their self identity and they are often referred as someone's daughter or a wife or a mother. They are always suppressed and ill-treated by men, and their effort is when they make an effort to step out of their comfort zone. So women are not allowed to express their views, and their existence is completely being lost, which results in their identity crisis. So coming to the poem, this is a photograph of me. It is written like a conversation in which the author Margaret Atwood has incorporated a lot of imageries to express her pent up feelings, which she has undergone as a woman. This entire poem is the experience of Margaret Atwood, the female suppression that she undergoes, and she tries to create a self identity, a self I, the image I she tries to create. So, coming to the poem begins with the lines. In the third line, we can see a smeared print, blurred lines, and grey flakes blended with paper. So, through these lines, we can see that she compares herself with a photograph, an inanimate object. It shows that the position of the women in a home, like how her feelings are never respected and she's compared to an inanimate object. This also reflects the position of women in a society and how she is maintained very she's not given equal respect and opportunities that men enjoys. And it also shows how her women's identity becomes unclear due to patriarchy. And coming to the lines, then as you scan like a branch, part of tree, balsam of spruce, emerging a small frame house. Through these lines, we can see how Atwood picturizes and she stresses the power of women through balsam, spruce, and the house. These three words associates herself with nature. She compares herself with nature because in a society, male dominant society, she feels that she can associate herself only with the nature. She sees balsam symbolizes women's fertility, spruce symbolizes hope, and the house stands as a symbol of women at home. Through these, we can see that she is not given the right to voice out her ideas, and she stands with multitude of hope to win the fruit of freedom. And moving to the lines, the photograph was taken the day after I drowned. Through these lines, we can see the use of imagery, that how a lake in a photograph stands as an outstanding imagery that reflects her grief and death, telling that she is drowned in it, which expresses her extreme state of depression. She also tries to show that her dreams are vanished and her identity is lost by male oppression. She feels that her existence is not recognized by the society. And she also stresses that the lake that photograph is drowned is like a lake of suppression, the male dominance and the ill treatment that she has undergone as a woman. And through this, we understand how women are segregated and are treated as inferior beings in the society. Coming to the last four lines, and I am the effect of water or light in a distortion. The poet concludes the poem by saying that the effect of water on light and how it becomes unclear, a distorted image. After her death, she becomes a distorted image. Her identity is completely being lost, and her opinions are never heard when she was alive. She brings out the fact that she was denied of the rights and freedom because of strong male domination, and her identity is completely lost. Atwood compares the beauty of nature in the photograph that is hidden in the photograph with the beauty of the women. She says that a picture will be visible only when one looks deep into the water. So only when men tries to understand the feelings and the rights of women to be enjoyed, then only a woman can her self identity can be easily she can express it. Women, to conclude, I like to conclude that the women are more talented and powerful than men. They should be given equal opportunities like education to achieve their goals. Men must not consider themselves superior. And the poet beautifully expresses her sufferings through a photograph where she says that a woman's power can be seen only when men or any other people who suppresses her pay close attention to the beauty of her power, the bravery that she has inside. She beautifully brings out the message that how a woman is longing to achieve her self identity even after her death. Women should possess a strong mind to face all obstacles and fight against all injustice that happens to her. So I'd like to conclude by when a woman has incessant fortitude and she fights bravely against all the myths surrounding her by breaking all the walls of oppression, she can ultimately achieve her self identity, the image I. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. A very deep, thought-provoking poem. And yes, I see there are differences in, the message that's communicated. But I was reminded of Lady Lazarus,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
poem. So, just maybe as an afterthought, or can you do a comparison? Not now, later, between the two poems, and see the similarities and how a woman is, expressing her emotions, how strongly it comes out
Yes, ma'am.
between these two poems.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's just a thought from my end. Okay, no, just what I felt like sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Uh, Thank you. So we've completed the 4 presenters for this particular session. Um, so, sir,
Uh, Good morning, ma'am. Good morning,
hello, sir.
everyone. I'm extremely thankful to Professor Shandini for condescending to our request at such a short notice and being with us and conducting the session so effectively. We thank you profoundly, ma'am, on behalf of the college management, the English department, and the Cape Comorin Trust. We thank you. We are eternally grateful to your great favor for being with us
Thank you,
today.
sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sir,